Welcome back to another video with K-Time. It has been a long time since I've done a Digimon deck profile, but this is just update for darkknightmon, which is the only deck I've played in bt16. Haven't played much in the format, but just some small updates, and it's actually working not too bad. So without further ado, let's go into the deck profile. We're still running the same egg Pokemon, bt6 Pokemon. On deletion, reveal top card. If it's a black Digimon, add it to your hand. We can whiff with this. Actually, we whiff with this more now than before, but we don't have many choices. The other choice, my secondary egg, is Tokamon, EX5 Tokamon. It's on deletion only during the opponent's turn. If it's deleted, draw a card, which is better, but only works during the opponent's turn. However, it kind of deters them from possibly deleting our rookies during their turn. And it's really nice if we have a blocker that we just leave out. Because of the Ukon, I am running 5 eggs. It should be 4 Pokemon, 1 Tokamon. At the time I couldn't find where I put my 4th Pokemon. So I quickly chucked another Tokamon in. But it should be 4 Pokemon, 1 Tokamon for the 5 eggs. And we want 5 eggs rather than 4 now, because we do run the Ukon. So let's just chuck the eggs up there. They don't really matter that much. Going into the level 3, first up, as usual, the 4 copies of the bt10 Monitamon. This is amazing searcher for the deck. Reveal 4, and we pretty much add any 2 cards from the whole archetype. Any Nightmon, Deadly Axemon, or Twilight card in its traits. And this means we can add even like Tamers and options with this cards. And we grab 2, so it's fantastic. Not only that, it has Twilight in its trait itself. There we go. So it can both grab itself, and the Nene Tamer makes this a blocker. There's no reason not to run for this card. Sorry for all the other Monitamons out there that are not Twilight trait, because it didn't exist back then, but yeah. This is clearly the best Monitamon by far. No reason not to run for. Next up, apparently it's what the cool kids do nowadays. Wow, 4 copies of the promo Ukon. This is the one that's all about the speed. And the Ukon definitely increases the speed of this deck. darkknightmon has generally been a slow deck because unlike the other Digicross decks, it doesn't have rush. So it feels a bit slower. But being able to rookie rush on the side of what you already do kind of helps you keep up pace a little bit. And it means in a grind game, we're slowly chipping away that bit faster. Nothing much to say about the Ukon. Lets us do extra breeding and gain a memory too. So that gain memory is actually nice in this deck because a lot of our plays cost 4 memory. And it means if we're in a scenario that we need the extra memory to do our 4 memory play and keep our turn. This extra memory can be really helpful. So not only is this good for the aggression, that extra memory can be really beneficial for darkknightmon. Next up, a bt16 edition, 4 copies of the new bt16 Ukon. Obviously this one costs 1 to digivolve rather than 0, but it's a fantastic card, potentially even better. They do different things. This one increases consistency because it allows us to search for Digimon or Tamer. Obviously the Tamer is really important because we really need at least 1 Nene on the field as soon as possible. But yeah, just a really nice consistency tool. And because it also lets us do extra egg hatching, we can also keep up the tempo with the rookies. Before the Ukonons existed, I would definitely not be running 12 level 3s in darkknightmon, considering we don't digivolve on them often. But now we run 12. Yeah, you don't really need more than 12 because none of the other rookies are that good, and you mainly just want more rookies if you keep having Ukon and you keep hatching. But otherwise, 12 is a good number. And because you run 12, we want 5 eggs because of the Ukonons. But yeah, fantastic addition. Obviously people are talking about Ukon getting hit on the ban list, mainly because of the Numemon deck. But until something happens, we will play 8 Ukonons in darkknightmon. It's really good. That's it for level 3s. So going on to the first level 4, the best one. 4 copies of bt10 Skull Knightmon Mighty Axe Mode. There are several reasons why this card is good. Firstly, it counts as both Skull Knightmon and Deadly Axemon, which is really good for digicrossing, that it can count as either one. On play, Searcher, cool, look at top 3, pretty much grab Archetype, trash the rest. This is also the only level 4 that we can digicross with. Same requirements as darkknightmon, Skull Knightmon, Deadly Axe, just reduces the cost by 1 each. If we do digicross with 2 cards, then its on play lets us delete something with 4 play costs or less. This doesn't come up. I mean, there's certain matchups where we really need to delete something with 4 play costs or less, and we'll definitely go for it. Other times we'll have the dual tamer set up that we can kind of digicross with free resources from our trash anyway, so we might as well do it to make the memory cheaper. And the memory manipulation, you know, if we only have 3 memory, we might digicross just 1 thing under, just to make this cost 3 rather than 4. Keep it our turn, do something else after that. There's a number of kind of nice uses for it. But yeah, overall just really nice. It counts as both, good on play, digicross, optional, but can, you know, increase the different... It's so flexible, it can go in so many different scenarios. And it's Twilight in its traits, because it's one of the newer ones. BG10 is actually really old now. Next up, we're going to EX4, 3 copies of Deadly Axemon. This is the only Deadly Axemon I'm running in the deck, because it's only Deadly Axemon with Twilight in its traits. Not counting this, which counts as Deadly Axemon. This is kind of just search for consistency. We can trash something with Twilight in its traits to draw 2. Then it has on deletion, look at the top card, add it if it's part of the archetype, basically. Otherwise trash the rest. Inheritable, all turns plus 1000 DP. This is nice. This is nice. Not much else to say about the card, just further improves consistency. Trashing stuff is nice because we can often use stuff from trash. I was running this at 4, but I cut it down to 3 because I actually found that with all the cards that count as Deadly Axemon, that it was fine anyways. But you can run it as 4 if you want to. But yeah, definitely the best Deadly Axemon. The other Searcher is technically a better Searcher, but it doesn't have Twilight in its traits. So this makes it way better, in my opinion. Next up, the promo Skull Knightmon. I know this card can kind of be a bit expensive at the moment, but he is mandatory for the deck. Of course, he's got Twilight in its traits, but the main thing is it's on deletion, which lets us play Nene from our hand or trash for free. Note that the dual tamer counts as Nene, so basically in this deck we play any of our tamers for free. Obviously that's really good, because more tamers, more good. It also means that with stuff like this, we can trash our tamers and then play them back from trash. Or with our accidental search effects, whatever we don't grab with like these cards, we have to trash. Sometimes that can be hurtful, because it's mandatory for us to trash the rest of the cards. But this can now get our tamers back from the trash. So as long as you have this card, our trash is a second resource, not just for our Digimon, like before, but also for our tamers. So yeah, fantastic card. You really have to run... I find 3 copies to be plenty. This is the only card on the deck that also has save, which means it can actually go under our tamers, which is amazing. We don't have anything else that actually saves. So this is a really fantastic card. You could run it at 4, but I find 3 to be fine. As soon as you see 1, you should be able to loop it enough that you don't really need more. And you know, eventually you'll hit more anyways. But you could bump it up to 4 if you really want to, but I find 3 to be fine. It's inheritable, kind of a very familiar inheritable of security attack +1. However, it is limited to Twilight trait. Which means that ironically, darkknightmon X does not get security attack +1 from this. I don't know why they made it like that. They really need a new darkknightmon X that has Twilight in its traits. So the effect can kind of bum out a little bit, but otherwise the card's still super amazing for the deck. You really need to play multiple copies of this. Yeah, I wouldn't play the deck without this card now. Speaking of Skull Knightmon, I still run one single copy of the EX4 Skull Knightmon. It's on play. If we don't have a Nene, play one for free. Obviously, before this Skull Knightmon, this was my main Tamer player. It can still come up if we see it early. It's on deletion, still searches, which could be handy. The main reason I actually run it just is for the one copy of Reboot Inheritable. Again, because we can digicross from the trash. As soon as we see one in trash, we can kind of keep using it over and over. And sometimes we do want to get those swings in, but still be able to block our opponent. So one copy of Reboot, with the bonus of being able to play a Tamer if we see it early, is why I'm running it. But feel free to change this for anything else. This could be changed for another Deadly Axe, 4 copies of the promo one, whatever. This is very much the most cuttable part. I just wanted to run it anyways. The next level 4 is 2 copies of the original BT7 Skull Knightmon. Its when attacking effect doesn't come up that much. We only have 4 things we can digivolve onto with our 2 digivolve cost. Most everything else in the deck is 3 digivolve cost. This is pretty much only 2 digivolve cost in the whole deck for level 4s. So unless you're playing it or play it out and then later attack, it's very obvious. We're not really surprising anyone with it. That's not really the reason we run it. It's a kind of like a neat bonus. It's mainly just, again, for security attack +1, but this security attack +1 will work with all of our level 5 and 6s, like anything with Knightmon in its name. Doesn't matter if it's Twilight trait or not. So it's actually ironically, the better inheritable. And the reason we still run 2 to get a security attack +1. I see some people run more to, increase consistency of seeing that security attack +1. I find 2 to be fine. Again, when you see 1, that's generally enough to keep looping it, etc. This one can also fill in for security attack +1. And this doesn't have Twilight in its traits. So, it misses out on some searches. It can't block itself. And I like having level 4s that can block. So that's why I only run 2 of it. Next up for level 4 is 2 copies of Skull Knightmon Cavalier mode. This is the second card that can count for both Skull Knightmon and Deadly Axemon. And yeah, that makes it very flexible for digicrossing. Lovely card. Not only that, we can digivolve it for 1 onto any of our other level 4s to give it both jamming and blocker. The blocker won't really matter unless we don't have Nene on the field. So it can sometimes come up. But the jamming's really nice because we can pretty much pop it on anything for 1, draw 1, so I guess it's a 1 memory draw 1, and gives us jamming for a safe swing. Or blocker to pass turn. But yeah, that can be quite nice. Obviously, Cavalier mode on this Skull Knightmon means we can swing with jamming and then reboot blocker. Cavalier mode on this Skull Knightmon, security attack +1 jamming, which was the main combo back in the day. This security attack +1 will not work with this. It's not level 5 or higher, and it doesn't have Twilight in its traits. But this is a really flexible card, because it counts as either, nice 1 digivolve. Yeah, these 2 cards have another niche use, which I'll go into later, once I hit the level 5s. The final level 4 of the deck is 1 copy of Mercurymon, the Black Hybrid. Hybrid for game is really good in this deck. We often have that 2 memory potentially to get game with. And again, we are a slower deck that doesn't really OTK, and we play a good number of Tamers. Well, not a high amount of Tamers, but we get Tamers on the field often. That hybrid for game definitely comes up. It's not part of the archetype, but it's actually okay to have this in trash, because we have a card that can add it back from trash. So yeah, definitely worth taking in 1 Mercurymon. There's more times than I can count, which apparently isn't often. But yeah, hybrid for game definitely comes up at times still. It can also give it any of your Digimon blocker, which doesn't really matter with the Tamer, but it can give it self blocker. It can technically give like your Ukon's blocker. It won't really come up, but it can be nice. I mean, definitely doesn't hurt. I'll put it up there. It's kind of separate. That's it for level 4s. On to our level 5s. We're starting off with 4 copies of the bt16 darkknightmon. That's the normal art, just so people don't get confused with what this is. Yeah, this is our bread and butter. Digivolve 1. If digicrossing, we can delete something with 5 play cost or less. Obviously, if they have a level 5, we can digivolve it to a 4, and then potentially delete the level 4, which is the main thing we do. If they're level 6, we can potentially go into 2 of these in a turn to make the 6 go into 5, 5 go into 4, delete the 4. It's also amazing because it floats. When it would be deleted, we return 1 Digivolution back to our hand, and we play out the other source. So keep the blocker, keep progression, keep looping resources. Really, really good card. MVP of the deck. That's why the deck's called darkknightmon. It's not a darkknightmon X deck, it's darkknightmon deck. This is the main card. Hell yeah. Next up, 1 copy of the original bt7 darkknightmon. Yeah, I still like this card. Only downside is that it doesn't have Twilight in its traits, and we don't digicross. The not digicrossing part doesn't actually matter that much, because this is our main digicross target, so it's fine to have something different. But again, main downside is that it doesn't have Twilight in its traits. We could potentially just hard play this for 7 on play, put 2 sources, well, 1 Skull Knight and 1 Deadly Axe under it. This one has the better and worse on deletion. Instead of playing out one thing unsuspended, we bring out both sources suspended. So it's worse for blocking, because neither of the bodies we bring out can block. But next turn, if they don't delete something, we'll have 2 swings. So yeah, the card's still really nice. The niche use these 2 have is if this digivolves onto a level 4, we can just digivolve for 3 onto it, which sometimes comes up. And that will ensure we have the 2 sources under, so we bring out 2 bodies. This can, the Mighty Axe mode, can also just digicross just with 1 thing under. And then digivolve darkknightmon onto it. Then when it's deleted, we bring out this, and whatever else, we digicross under it. So that's the niche use with those 2, these 2 cards. They both help facilitate this to actually digivolve into, rather than hard play. But I still really like the card. Lastly, my least favorite one, but one I am testing, is 1 copy of the EX4 darkknightmon. He's my least favorite because his on deletion is just a search effect. He doesn't actually bring out another body. However, he still does the Digivolve 1, like our favorite one. We still digicross into it. Still got Twilight and Straits. So it kind of has all the good stuff of this, but it doesn't play out a body when it's deleted. The only thing it does is it does get blocker. Well, it gives one of our Digimon blocker, so it could be one of our random ones. The blocker part does come up now with 1 level 6, which doesn't normally have blocker. Again, this is actually the level 5 I want to digivolve onto, because it doesn't float. And it's just another digicross target to go into. I've been like, I'm not sure if I like it. Sometimes I like 2 copies of darkknightmon. That's what I was running. Other people just run the 5 level 5s and that's it. But I find like sometimes they can be a bit low count level 5s, or I have to keep adding back the level 5 to make sure I don't run out. So that's why an extra level 5 can be nice. Going on to the level 6s, we have the main boy, 3 copies of darkknightmon X. He does everything for the deck. When digivolving, he adds any black or purple Digimon from our trash to a hand, except he can't add another copy of himself. So this is the way to add back our hybrid, but of course it adds back anything, which is cool. Then we can delete any Tamer. Well, not can, it's mandatory for us to delete a Tamer on either field. And then this Digimon also unsuspends, so it kind of does everything. Obviously, deleting opponent's Tamer, and it's a bigger blocker, is nice. Also on deletion, he plays out a darkknightmon from a trash, not from the sources. So even if we go into my least favorite one and digivolve onto it, if this dies, we can then play out one of the other ones from the trash. It doesn't have to be the one that was in its sources. That's why this is okay, because it can go into these ones. But yeah, this is really good. It also helps potentially get game, because if we delete our Nene, we gain 2 memory, which can help us keep turn, unsuspend, swing, helps us kind of get game because we can add a missing piece, add hybrid, etc. Really nice card. Does not have Twilight in its traits, is the only downside. I don't know why it doesn't have Twilight in its traits. It's the bt10 card. It just says darkknightmon and X antibody. But yeah, really unfortunate. If this card could add back itself, I would probably cut it down to 2 copies, because you could just use 1 copy to add the other if needed. But because it's not Twilight and we accidentally trash it sometimes, and because it can't add itself, I do run it at 3 copies just to see it consistently enough. Lastly, for level 6, we actually have some new additions. 2 copies of Vikemon Ace. Aces in this deck are pro and cons. The main downside is you will no longer have any of the on deletion effects to float into bodies. So if your level 6 Ace dies, you get nothing in return. However, we often end the board. I mean, the whole game plan is to end turn with a level 5, which makes it really easy for us to go into an Ace. And since the opponent might not want to delete them, there's a good chance that we can hit them with the Ace. So it's kind of like we have really good opportunities to use it, but we do miss out on the floating bodies later. So that's why it's a pro and con. Vikemon Ace is good against several meta decks because it can de-digivolve as they attack. Coupled with extra de-digivolve can really put the opponent under pressure. It can stun stuff with 1 or fewer sources, and it can delete something with 1 or fewer sources. We actually struggle to delete Digimon that are hard played, because our main form of removal is de-digivolve. But this is a way we can, if they just like hard play an Ace turn 1, this is something that can actually remove Ace, whilst our deck kind of struggles with that, ironically. But yeah, good card. Again, you have to really hurt your opponent with this, because using this also kind of hurts ourselves. Again, part black, so we can add it back with the darkknightmon X. The other option is Mega Gargamon Ace, which also works the deck, because it can digivolve on black, and we can add it back. They kind of hit different things. This one can stun Digimon and Tamers. It's also unsuspends and is a blocker. So if darkknightmon is suspended and they attack, we can digivolve on darkknightmon, unsuspend, block it. That can surprise the opponent. It's a 12k body, and Deadly Axemon, its plus 1000 isn't archetype exclusive, so it would make this a 13,000 blocker, and it can double attack too. So I've been considering cutting it to 1 of each. But there are pros and cons to why one is good in some situations, one's good in other. I think 2 aces is plenty enough. I mentioned how this can give itself blocker, and that is relevant for Vikemon Ace, because Vikemon Ace is not a blocker itself. So if you do have Vikemon Ace, you can't actually block the attack that triggers the Blast Digivolution. But if you digivolve on this darkknightmon, you can. So still working out what Ace I like best, but definitely worth consideration. I would 100% run at least 1 Ace, because just like Mercurymon, and just like the next card, we can add it back from trash. So it's kind of very nice utility, at least. The last card, the good old DeathXmon. Does nothing against some decks, super overpowered against other decks. We can digivolve onto our level 6s with it, but more importantly, we can add it back from trash with the darkknightmon X, which does come up. I was versing a D-Brigade player once that hit this as like the first check in security. When I did later in the game go to darkknightmon X, I added back Death X, had the memory to keep my turn, so I played the Death X. Yeah, both of these did so much damage together. Fun fact, darkknightmon and Mercurymon can also make Death X a blocker, which will never come up, but I know, kind of funny. That's it for the Digimon. So take a picture now if you want to get a picture of Digimon. I'll be putting the Tamers and stuff on top of this. So yeah, so take a picture now if you want the Digimon. For the Tamers, we have 3 copies of the bt10 Nene, who's really good for the deck. Not only is she pretty standard searcher, just adds pretty much any card in the whole archetype. She does add card, so she can add herself, but also add options or other things too. She also searches by name, so she can grab, she can grab stuff like this that doesn't have Twilight traits. The most important thing is she makes all of our darkknightmon in name or Twilight trait gain blocker, which is 90% of the deck. This won't gain blocker, although it can give blocker itself. This doesn't get blocker. Pretty much anything else gains blocker. This is what makes the deck kind of grindy and hard to get through, because you just keep playing blocker. And what makes the deck kind of signature and annoying for the opponent. She also has the on deletion gain 2 memory. This is important for us because we can potentially delete our own Nene to gain 2, keep it our turn. It also means if we're versing an opponent that has Tamer deletion, they have to be mindful that we're going to get 2 memory when they do delete this Tamer. They might want to delete Tamer and swing for game because we'll lose blocker, but if their 2 memory means they can't keep their turn, too bad for them. Really nice card. Because the Skull Knightmon can add back from the trash, I find 3's fine. We won't accidentally run out of Nenes. Only potential risk is we just never see that first one. But as long as you see 1, you're pretty good. And then if you can get 2 on the field, that's even better. Just to kind of make sure we have blocker. Last team of the deck is 3 copies of Kiraha and Nene. This card does just count as Nene, so it works with all the other Tamer playing effects. It's start of main phase, really easy to get that extra 1 memory. We don't actually have a memory setter in this deck, or I don't run a memory setter in this deck. So the extra memory or 2 really helps us go into like darkknightmon and keep it our turn. And then it lets us digicross from under a Tamer and from trash. This is now the first and only card that can digicross from under our Tamers. So we can digicross this and then a Deadly Axemon, or one of our cards that counts as Deadly Axemon. But yeah, card's really good, just really helps with the grind game so we don't run out of resources. And the extra memory each turn is really easy to get, because this starter main, if there's 2 or more Digimon in total on either field. If opponent has 2 or more, easy. We have 2 or more, cool. We have 1 each, cool. It's starter main phase, so we can push out from breeding, cool. It's only 1 memory, but it's really easy to get that 1 memory. So yeah, both these Tamers, fantastic. Going to the options now, we run 2 copies of Immortal Ruler. It's a bunch of text. We need a Nene to ignore color requirements, cool. We trash it when we use it. Double-edged sword, it generally helps build up our resources, but we have to make sure we don't deck out. Lets us digicross from the trash, and then we can put in digicross requirements from the trash. Honestly, the main reason we run this is because this is the best card in the deck, our bt10 darkknightmon, and we can only have 4 copies of it. This lets us run 6 copies of it. Fantastic. I mean, more if we add it back, but by itself, it's just more copies. Also, without the Tamer, this can kind of get our resources from the trash back under. We can use this to get resources from trash, darkknightmon X. darkknightmon X dies and plays this out. Then we use the Tamer during the opponent's turn to put sources under. So yeah, 2 is good. You don't need more than 2. Last card of the deck is the tech, removal option is Trident Arm. It's the 6 cost. That's very similar to Ultimate Flare because we did Digivolve 3. However, we don't delete play cost 3 afterwards. We give the one opponent's Digimon starter main, this Digimon attacks. We have so many blockers that even if we don't fully delete something, we could make it into like, I don't know, a rookie or level 4, and then just block it with one of our bodies and kind of delete them that way. Obviously, it also works really well with any ace because it's a very easy ace trigger. But I think the card's just really good. But you can run Ultimate Flare if you prefer more like low level removal. But Trident Arm kind of synergizes better with Ace, and the 6 play cost rather than 8 comes up. Just give your opponent 2 less memory. Again, you can use Ultimate Flare, the Iron Fisted Onslaught, DG Dimension, any other removal that the deck has. Put it there at the bottom. Try it now. No, can't really see it. Anyways, there you go. You get your turn-outs. Yeah, anyways, that's the deck profile. Actually went longer than I expected, but love talking about the deck. Not much has changed, really, just Ace, Ukon's, I guess the promo Skull Knight, if, you know, that's new, but not really. But yeah, mainly the Ukon's and the Ace are the new additions to the deck. Yeah, once again, this definitely increases the speed a lot. You'll be able to get game a lot faster now with 8 Ukon's than before. Also really looking forward to the new Lord Knightmon Ace. If you haven't seen it, it works fantastically with the deck and probably will be the new Ace that I put in. Anyway, hope you enjoy. Feel free to comment any questions or suggestions, etc. There's a couple of, well, fair few different options, but hope this gives you a good idea of what to do if you still like playing darkknightmon, because you didn't actually make a BT16 deck. Okay, Keith, I'm out.